So when we come into the system here, we want to know how to do messaging within the system. As you notice here, we're on the patient's face sheet, or if we go to desktop, you'll see the screen changes briefly, but we can still see the send message in the same area in the action bar. So as we tap on that, that gives us a pop out. The key messages, I should say, that we're going to be using here is we're going to be using patient messages or regular mail messages. Mail messages are going to be messages very much like we've used in our other systems that are basically communications between each of us back and forth. These are not saved to the chart and are merely for communications. So example, you see here we can select our recipients and we can add one. For example, if we wanted to send to Dr. Arvin here, we just add him over. If we wanted to copy Erica, we would add her over. Or if we want to select them all, we can just hit the whole group and get everybody. And then we could just do copies if we were selecting people very much like we do in Outbox. So we've selected and we're going to be sending to quite a few people here. And as you notice here, the message screen looks very similar to your Outlook or even your Gmail. And we can select a subject here. There's some that are preset, but this can be anything. So we can say lunch in break room. And you can do several things here. You can text and say free food. Hurry before it's gone. You can also, if you wanted to put images here for some reasons, you can even import some images to send or files. But the main thing is it's a quick text, so this is going to be the way we're going to be communicating with everybody once we are all live on the EHR system. If you are in the middle of the message and you want to save this, you can just simply save it as draft and it'll stay in your outbox. The other thing you can do is mark this as high priority. If you click on that, you notice it stays, and this will actually show up as read to the receiving person. If you wanted to make this a private message directly to somebody where it could not be sent on, you would click private, and then ultimately once you're done you would click send. The other message that we will be using a good bit here is a patient message. Now the key difference here is with patient message, this actually is attached to the patient's chart. So we want to make sure what we're saying in here is appropriate. Also we want to make sure that this is used for things such as patient questions, patient concerns with this. So when we check, it's basically the same sort of thing. You choose who you want to send it to. Say we've got a patient who's calling in to Dr. Buford and he has a question, and subject here we can say they have some general questions. We can set a delay on delivery. If you want to wait and deliver it later in the day, that's fine. That priority button is moved from the top right to the bottom here, so you can highlight that again to flag that. And if you want to notate kind of a historical date that this is in reference to, you can. Patient wise here, this is where you can select and find a patient. So let's say that one of our test patients here that we've been using is calling in for Dr. Buford, and we'll just pull up some recent ones we had, and we're just going to pull GG test here. And so now GG's appointment correction chart is attached to this message, so this is going to be recorded in that chart. If we need the patient's phone number, we can always add it here as far as a callback for them if they wanted the provider to give them a call. As you see, as we added that, we've already got some key patient information here as far as their main caregiver, their date of birth. Last encounter will be in here, and also their next appointment, so the provider is able to look at this very quickly. Other nice features up here, we can actually pull the patient's chart if we need to look at that, or if you just want to look at the face sheet, you can do that and quickly bring up the patient's face sheet here. Also, we can do a quick view via Patient Manager, and this is going to show us things as far as our HIPAA information and living wills, consent agreements, and so forth. Also, it's going to show us any appointment cancellations or no-shows. Also on this screen, we can actually toggle back and forth between the patient's face sheet and the Patient Manager. So just a couple buttons there that if you need to jump back quickly to the chart that you can. And again, down here you can enter your notes. So you may say the patient called and couldn't figure out how to use their inhaler. And patient wants Dr. Buford to show them. So once you've got this, again, you're going to go up here, and if you're in the middle of it, you can save it to draft, and then otherwise you send it. Now the key thing is the last person to get this message, which typically if it's going to be sent from a CMA or nurse to a provider, it's going to come back to that nurse for some action. So it's real important that if you are the last person to take an action on that message, you need to save the message to the chart. Otherwise it does not automatically attach to the chart. So these are real important. Basically think of this like the stickers that we've used for many years. You can write on that sticker all day long, but until you attach it to the chart, it's not part of the chart. So you want to make sure to use this button just like you've used those stickers in the past. So those are the two main messages that we'll be using. As you can see, there are a couple other messages here. Action items, a lot of practices don't really use this because basically it ends up being a mail message telling somebody to do something. So really focus on mail message for our general internal communications, and then patient message when we're talking as far as a specific patient request. Refill requests can also be done here as well. Web messages, as we've talked in previous videos, at this time we're not going to be using web messages. Possibly in the future we can. And then you can see the draft messages that if you were to have to stop in the middle of anything here, you could always pull those messages. So that's a quick overview on messages. Again, if you've been able to do it in Medical Manager, if you've ever used Outlook or Gmail, you can easily do it in this system.